Hello, I'm Garm1, and this is Cool Crowdfunding. Today I have with me Jacob Randolph. How's it going?
It's going good. Nice to be here.
All right. You're the lead writer for Fellowship, right?
Yep, I am the sole writer, editor, layout guy, all that crap for Fellowship. Everything
Mm,
but the art, pretty much.
wearer of many hats. Yes. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Fellowship?
Fellowship is a tabletop adventure game that's about going on a quest to save the world, pretty much. Uh, where it differs from a lot of other fantasy games is that you build the world together with your friends. So all the players will get a playbook like the elf or the dwarf or the halfling, and you get to decide exactly what dwarves are. Like if you play as the dwarf, you decide what a dwarf is, what the dwarf people are like, what their lands are, what their laws are, if they're giant gorillas or if they're gun-toting war machines or whatever. Um, and then once everyone has built the world together, the game master of the game gets an overlord playbook where they make their own character to destroy the world that everyone just built. And I find that the setup makes people very invested in stopping the Overlord.
Absolutely. Collaborative world building is great fun. I love to see games that do that.
Uh, Me too. I'm a big fan. I wrote it basically for me, and the fact other people like it is a nice bonus.
Yeah, I've heard of Fellowship from a lot of people. I've seen the name tossed around a lot. I haven't had the chance to try it myself quite yet, although I think we have. I think we're going to soon. I think we're doing a one shot or something. I don't know how one shot friendly it actually is, but we'll see.
It's one shot friendly enough. Just like don't expect to actually beat the Overlord in a one shot.
Oh, absolutely,
That's
yeah.
not a. It's not really built for that.
So, what were your main inspirations for Fellowship? Like Lord of the Rings, obviously, but anything else?
Wakfu and Avatar: The Last Airbender were pretty much the biggest ones when writing it originally.
Wakfu,
Um,
there's a name I haven't heard in a while.
yeah, that's a little more niche than Avatar, which everyone in America's heard of pretty much if you like cartoons at all.
Yeah,
Um, Wakfu is a French cartoon made entirely in Flash, which is impressive because it looks really good.
yeah.
Um, that features a group of people from different cultures. And the neat thing about Wakfu is each of their cultures is based on a god. Like where you're born doesn't determine what you are; it's which god you're born under. So like
Oh,
there's the Zellors who are clock people, and they're all like weird mummy people with robot bits, and they worship a time god. Um, and anyone who worships the time god gets to also be a time warping clockwork person,
that's
and
super
that's
cool.
very neat.
Yeah,
So that was a heavy inspiration.
yeah. I played the MMO for a bit and didn't pick up that that's what was going on. That makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah,
that's the difference in the classes is that they worship the different gods.
yeah,
So like there's a Sadida, the life god, and all these other ones, but that's for a different podcast. That's for a
yeah,
walk food podcast.
yeah. I'll have to put that on the list. So what is the first edition or the second edition's actually out already, right? It's up on Drive Through RPG.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's this Kickstarter for then?
The Kickstarter is to fund two additional books. The Kickstarter is already funded, so they'll be happening, which I'm excited for. Uh, so the first fellowship started as a Dungeon World expansion that I didn't end up like. There's a Venn diagram of space where Dungeon World likes to play and where I eventually wanted Fellowship to be. And they have some overlap, but they didn't fully overlap, so I ended up making its new system. Um, but my first book I ever wrote was an expansion for Dungeon World called Inverse World. And Inverse Fellowship is me porting that book into Fellowship pretty much. So it has 7 new playbooks, a whole bunch of new content, and the first setting for Fellowship, which feels probably at odds with that initial pitch I gave, but it kind of works out because it's a little bit of a open-ended setting. There's room to mess with it.
Yeah, it's a bunch of floating islands like above a dying star or above the sun, right? Or something like that.
Yes,
Yeah, so that's there's plenty of
where
room
the
to.
ceiling is also the Earth.
Oh right,
It's
yeah,
inside of a hollow Earth.
right. That's super cool. And yeah, there's plenty of space in there to do your own stuff. It's
Hmm.
uh it's a foundation for a setting more
Yes.
than yeah.
And the other thing that it does is it replaces the Overlord with the Horizon, which is an exploration based playbook. So instead of actively destroying and antagonizing the players, you present them with new borders to explore, an untamed wilderness to check out, and all that.
Cool.
And then the third book is going to be A Fellowship in Rebellion, which has 7 or more new playbooks. The one of the backer tiers adds playbooks to that, which is 3 so far, and if we get far enough, that might get branched into a separate book. But for now, they're going to be in Rebellion, um, which also features an alternate overlord with the Empire for an overlord that's already taken over the world.
Right. Which could be a nice transition if you fail in, standard fellowship,
Yeah,
jump forward like 5 years.
that's something a couple people have brought up that I did originally have planned, which was the Overlord player changing their Overlord playbook over time. Something I
Oh
hadn't
yeah.
considered, but could be pretty fun. Like
Yeah.
Overlord going to Empire, or if they beat the Overlord and you want to keep playing, you could switch to the Horizon and just explore the world now with your high level heroes.
Yeah, that actually
Uh,
sounds really great.
yeah,
Yeah. I really like kind of exploratory campaigns. It's fun to, show players stuff they haven't seen before and the like. So I've got
yeah. The Horizon is very episodic focused, so
yeah.
it's ideal for one shots, which is something that the core game, as you talked about earlier, is a little harder to do with because the Overlord setup is very focused on a campaign setting.
Yeah. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, Certain games have certain
Mm-mm.
design goals, but it is nice to have that option.
Yeah,
Uh
it's better to be focused on what the thing you want to do, which is part of why the Horizon of the Empire coming with a lot of changes to the rules to make them work.
yeah. I've got the Kickstarter open here. I see that one of your Kickstarter or one of your stretch goals rather is an extra book. Um, can you give us a little teaser of that?
Yeah, the idea for book 4 would be the proposed title is a generous fellowship because that is a lot of money to get there. And the
Yeah,
idea would be that all of the backer tiers that add stuff will be moved over to that book, so Fellowship and Rebellion doesn't get too huge and doesn't become like a 600-page monster. Um, but on top of that, I'll also be asking every single backer to give me a suggestion for a threat, and threats are your enemies in the game. So, like a regular threat from the core book is like just regular soldiers that the Overlord could have, or a bear. Um, so this will give it'll basically make the book into a little bit of a monster manual that also has like 5 or more playbooks or however many people back
yeah.
for.
Do you have Moose? Do you have Moose as a threat yet,
Moose is not a threat yet, so
dude?
Moose could be added in. That's a good one.
I might have to back and suggest Moose. I'm from Canada. They're scary. I see them.
They are scary. Mooses are no joke.
They're always way bigger than you think, man.
Yeah. Like you could kind of use War Elephant if you wanted to really go for it, but it's not exactly the same thing.
It's pretty close. Just doesn't have
Yeah.
the tusk or the antlers rather.
Yeah, just replace tusks with antlers.
Yeah, there you go. Boom, Moose. Uh,
Although the War Elephant is an armored riding platform, and that doesn't quite fit with the idea of what a moose that would be. So that stat would be rewritten as something new.
yeah, yeah,
Tusks and screaming, though, yeah, that fits.
yeah. They're crazy fast, man. Uh, so what got you into tabletop gaming?
Uh, I in middle school there was a tabletop gaming club, and Dungeons and Dragons Third Edition had just come out, and our social studies teacher was very excited about it, and that was my first introduction to the game to gaming at all. Um, was playing Third Edition with that, which had like 8 players, and it was kind of a
Oh,
mess. And I played a monk, and if anyone knows anything about Third Edition, you know that means I was useless. Um,
in stark contrast to now, where they are strong.
eh,
At least at low
They're
levels.
definitely better.
Yeah.
Strong is a hard word, but I was
At least in the first 5 levels, they can
yeah.
be pretty nuts. Yeah.
I tried to make D&D work for years before I realized other games exist, and then I never looked back.
Oh man, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
We do a lot of 5th edition stuff nowadays, but I try to mix in a lot of stuff that isn't D&D just to remind people like there's a lot out there. There's a
There
lot of
is a lot out
yeah.
there, and a lot of it is better than D&D. Even 5th edition isn't very good. It's okay. But man, there's so much better out there. And this
Yeah.
isn't even me just talking about Fellowship or whatever. Go play Costume Fairy Adventures. That's my best tabletop game of all time right there. Costume Fairy Adventures. Go play that.
I might have to check that out.
It is a game where you are fairies going on adventures and wearing costumes, and your costumes give you superpowers.
That sounds right.
Because fairy magic is powered by belief. So if you dress up as a super spy, you're now extremely sneaky and can pull out gadgets from nowhere.
Nice.
If you dress as a zombie, you're now immortal. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is a very silly game about causing mischief, and I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. So, what mechanics make Fellowship unique compared to some of the stuff out on the market now?
One of the big ones is damage works differently than it does in a lot of other games. You don't have hit points, you don't have a health bar. Instead, you have your stats, blood, courage, grace, sense, wisdom. And when you take damage, you mark a stat. And if all of your stats are marked and you take damage again, then you get taken out. That's the simple health system. The way it's interesting is that when it goes the other way against enemy threats, so we're talking about a war elephant before. They have the stats armored platform and tusks and screaming. When you attack a war elephant and successfully hurt it, you damage one of those stats and it can't use it anymore. Like you tore off the armored platform, or you broke off its tusks, or maybe you did that comedic thing where you put a cork over them, so now it's not dangerous.
All right, that's pretty cool.
And also, the other thing is that fights can go very quick because the 10+ result for the attacking move, finish them, is you defeat them. They're done. You don't have to deal any more damage. They're just out. And you can even do this against like bosses. Like the Overlord has generals that they can use, which are more dangerous than regular threats. But the way that's expressed is they're harder to reach, and whenever you make a move against them, you have to pay a price, which means you take damage or use some gear or you put yourself at a disadvantage just to make the move. But if you successfully get in there and finish them, they die just like everything else.
Nice.
One of the big changes for Fellowship 2nd Edition, actually, is in the 1st edition, finish them, which stat you could use any stats, and you determined which stat you rolled based on how you were finishing them. Like if you ambush them, you'd roll with grace. If you were confronting them head on, roll with blood and all that stuff. In the 2nd edition, I've changed that so which stat you roll determines what happens to them if you actually roll that 10+ result. So you roll blood when you want them to die. On a 10+, they do. They die by your hand. If you want to force them to retreat, that's courage. If you want to overwhelm or terrify or outsmart them, that's grace. And that makes them admit defeat. They will not willingly challenge you again. And I found that this makes it a lot more open-ended than it used to be, actually. Because like before, a common complaint was it was hard to tell what stat to finish them with. Now it's very clear based on what you want to do to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another part that makes Fellowship interesting is because the stats aren't based on like actually hurting people. They're just based on how you stop them, pretty much. One of those is showing them the error of their ways, roll plus wisdom. On a 10+, you forge a bond with them and they cannot bring themselves to hurt you. You've made a friend.
Nice.
And that one was very popular in last edition, but it didn't. Now it's more mechanically enforced.
Yeah. So you have a couple of different types of playbooks, right? Like you have the standard character playbooks, and then what are Destiny playbooks?
Destiny playbooks are similar to prestige classes in other games. If you have played like Dungeons and Dragons 3rd or 4th edition or whatever, and they are something you can pick after you're at least level 5, and you spend one of your advancements to start taking one. And they're things like the cyborg, you're part machine now, you get cool machine moves, or the witch, you become a powerful master of magic. But then there's also a bunch that are based on the advanced version of the playbook. Like if you just want to do what your playbook does, but more so, there's like the orc boss, who is the orc but stronger and bigger and smashier. There's the elven elite, who is the one thing no elf thought was possible: a better elf.
Yeah, all right.
Which is the flavor text for that playbook that I appreciated.
That's pretty good, honestly.
And they have some really ridiculous moves. Like one of the elven elite moves is Evil's Bane. You are now a weakness for the Overlord. The Overlord takes damage just for dealing with you.
Brutal.
Very brutal. You are now their bane, and they must go out of their way to avoid you.
So and you also have powerful playbooks. What's the deal with them?
A powerful playbook can't take a destiny is the big thing. But they also start stronger, and some of their advances, when they level up, they can just steal destiny moves or do other ridiculous things that other playbooks can't. The core powerful playbook is the Harbinger, which is like the Gandalf of the Fellowship. And they can do things like take damage to instantly kill their enemies. Just obliterate them with a powerful blast of magic. They're also the only class or playbook that has a spellcasting move that has no limitations. Every other spellcaster, when you use a spell, you mark it, and you can't use it again until you remove the mark, usually by resting. The Harbinger's wizardry move, they can just use all those spells as often as they like. And the spells are just, telekinesis, clairvoyance, delivering messages, conjuring light, that kind of thing. So they're just extremely magical and powerful. They start a little stronger than everyone else, but they will never get to the ridiculous stuff that Destinies give everyone later.
Right, it's kind of like the old effective character level system from 3.0 and 3.5.
Yes, it is a similar idea.
Yeah. I don't miss that system. That wasn't very good.
No, it was an idea.
They tried.
I would say it was a good idea, but it was an idea.
If 3.0 and 3.5 had a good CR system, it might have worked better, but no, It didn't. 5 doesn't either.
The other thing about powerful playbooks is that they have some limits to hold them back a little bit. Every playbook gets to pick 2 custom moves during character creation, except powerful ones. They only get to pick 1. Their custom moves are usually a little stronger than everyone else's, but they still only get 1.
Right.
So they're a little less versatile. And also, they have trouble making bonds with other players, and bonds are how you get teamwork bonuses. So they don't play as well with the party as regular playbooks do.
Which, fits with the Gandalf type.
Yep.
Like, you show up, you blow some stuff up, but you're always kind of not really part of, the core group.
Like, Gandalf's there because he's friends with Bilbo and Frodo. Not really everyone else.
Yeah. So, what else you got on your plate? Got any other weird plans for the future?
Let's see.
Is there a Cyberpunk Fellowship crossover with the Sprawl in the works?
No. The next thing I'm probably going to do after Fellowship, but that'll be a while because these next 2 or 3 books are going to be my next year of my life. But after those, I've actually been working on... Well, I have a text document called Dungeon World 3.txt with the idea of Fellowship being Dungeon World 2. I didn't even write Dungeon World 1. I need a better name for it. That's not me, but the idea is to go back to the dungeon delving roots, because as much as I love narrative games, and a lot of people like more narrative games like Fellowship, I mean, sometimes you want a little crunchiness. You want a little action and dungeon delving, so...
Yeah, absolutely. And, resource management and all that.
Yes, it is a very resource management focused, very refined, powered by the Apocalypse game so far, from what I've written. That'll also be a little crunchier, so it'll be a little weird for a powered by the Apocalypse game. but I still just really like that 2d6, 7 plus is good, 9 minus is bad thing.
Yeah.
It just works really well. So I'm keeping that, but really the rest of it's all going out the window. Like there's going to be an initiative system. I might do stuff with a battle grid. We'll see about that one though.
Yeah, that would be
A grid might not stick.
Yeah. Well, if you need a playtest group, you know how to reach me.
Yeah, I have to write more than like
More
one
than yeah.
class of each type though.
I know.
Another thing it's doing is I'm taking the best idea 5th edition had that they didn't do anything with as the core for that game.
Oh.
Which was during playtest they had this idea of each character would be built on 3 pillars: combat, exploration, and social.
Right.
And then they didn't do anything with that at all, really, in the final game. So the way I'm doing it is I'm writing 3 sets of playbooks: a set of combat playbooks, a set of exploration playbooks, and a set of social playbooks. And you make your character by picking one of each. Just slap them all together.
That sounds really good. I'm a sucker for Powered by the Apocalypse stuff that does like combinations of playbooks because there's so much weird stuff to do.
Danger Patrol is one of my other favorite tabletop games, and it does the same thing. You pick 2 sides and slap them together to make your character, and I always loved that and wanted to do more with it. And this is me going back to that idea.
Yeah, that sounds stellar, man.
I'm excited for it, but that's gonna be that's gonna be a while from now. I have a lot of other stuff in this Kickstarter I'm running to do.
Yeah,
before I get back to it, but
I understand that.
I've been poking at it here and there.
I've got campaign plans drafted up for stuff that I probably won't run for like 3 years. So,
Yeah.
That's
the life of tabletop gaming.
Yep. I'm lucky that I have a group that tolerates my my bad focus.
Yeah. Same. 6 Feet Under has been an excellent group for just throwing stuff at.
Yeah.
Which is the podcast group I'm part of.
I will throw a link to them in the description to this video along with all the Kickstarter stuff.
It is 6feetsunder.com. Pretty simple. I built our new website last month, and it's nice. Because our old one was killed by Google, just assassinated in cold blood.
Was it a Google Plus then?
No, it was not Google Plus. It was the back end for the site used Webhook, which was a website service that was controlled by Google, and they decided to kill Webhook back in December. They just pulled the plug on it without warning, and now Webhook doesn't work, so we had to make a new site.
That is pretty solidly the worst.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I have heard of 6 Feet Under before. They did some Breakfast Cult stuff.
Yes, they did. Breakfast Cult was, I think, our first bonus feats. And I was actually there for it. I wasn't part of the crew back then, but I published Breakfast Cult. Didn't write that one. That was written by my friend Etten. But
right, yeah, I was wondering why your name sounded familiar. That would do it. I backed that Kickstarter way back in the day.
Yeah, it's good. I really like Breakfast Cult's setting a lot.
Yeah, I like the setting. Not a big fan of Fate, unfortunately, but
Similar boat for me. Like, Fate's fine. I don't dislike it. I will gladly play a game of it, but I don't love it.
Yeah, I'll play pretty much anything if somebody DMs it. But not really my first option.
And that's fair. It's not a system for everyone as much as it wishes it was.
Yeah.
As much as they sometimes bill it as a system for everyone, it kind of isn't.
No, and that, like, no tabletop system is for everyone.
No tabletop game ever will be.
And that's
for anyone who wants to write their own tabletop games out there. Don't go broad, go narrow. You'll have much more success.
Yeah, nothing.
That's my experience.
Nothing makes me stop reading your product description like this is a generic RPG. Like, bye.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple things, but
Genesis is neat enough, but it was a lot more interesting as the Star Wars RPG than it was as the generic Genesis system.
Yeah. Haven't actually had the chance to try that, but that matches up with what I heard is that they did a really good job of making it Star Wars, and then trying to strip Star Wars out of that just doesn't really work.
It's okay. It's functional.
Yeah.
It's decent. I only know my only experience with it is because that's the game they use for Campaign, which is a podcast I enjoy listening to very much.
Right, that's from the One Shot Network, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's their long runner Campaign,
which
and they've
makes
used
sense.
Genesis for it for every game so far. Because they started as a Star Wars campaign, and then when that ended and they switched to the new thing, they kept using Genesis.
Stick with what you know.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting tabletop stuff out there, and I have a soft spot in my heart for licensed games. They're usually not very good, but
usually not. But the exceptions are always nice.
Yeah, they're at the least they tend to be interesting.
Yeah.
Like I've got a bunch of weird like Big Eyes Small Mouse stuff sitting around. I've actually got the Serial Experiments Lane one sitting right here.
Oh, nice. That was the show that got me into anime. More so than even Dragon Ball Z, which I also watched as a kid.
It's a great show.
I love it very much.
It wouldn't make a
the
good
pacing on it
game.
is so slow, so it's hard to go back to. But it's got such good ideas.
Man, it's worth watching.
And it's beautiful.
It's 13 episodes. It's like 2 days. But
no, that's not what I meant by slow. I mean the pacing of the actual episodes is very slow.
Oh yeah,
not a lot happens per episode.
It's meditative.
Yes, it's what it wants to be, and I appreciate it very much. But it is also, it's a lot to go back to.
It's not exactly.
I love it though.
Yeah,
deep in my Doki Doki heart.
Your Doki Doki Kokoro, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that about wraps up all the questions I had. Anything else you wanted to touch on while we're here?
I just wanted to, I think, go back a little more to that thing I said before, because we got sidetracked. But if you're going to make your own game, make it more narrow. Just do the thing that you want to do. Make the game for you, because that's the best way to make sure it'll at least have one fan. And if other people like it, that's a bonus. But like, making a successful game, or making a successful anything really, I found is kind of about being, you just pander to yourself, and then people who are like you will also like it.
Yeah, there's 8 billion people out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the world, and marketers don't know shit.
Yeah. So. Yours is actually kind of a recurring story that I've seen in my even in the 5 or so episodes that we've done here, is people going, well, I made this for my own table, and then we looked at it and went, maybe somebody else would like this, so we threw it up on Drive Through RPG and made 1,000 sales or something.
Yeah, I started publishing games because I liked Dungeon World, but I didn't like the core playbook, so I started writing my own.
Right.
And that eventually evolved into everything after. I wrote a bunch of Dungeon World playbooks. I've got 15 of them on Drive Through RPG total. And then I wrote Fellowship. And then from there I wrote Weirder Stuff. But now I'm back to Fellowship because the Weirder Stuff didn't sell as well.
That's how it goes sometimes. But at least
it is how it goes sometimes. I don't regret it though.
At least you know they all have one
the games
fan.
I've written.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to see probably one of the most unique games on the market, I highly recommend checking out Final Bid, which does not use dice, it does not use cards, it's randomizers, auction-based mechanics. That was the last game that I wrote that came out in February, and you auction off control of a scene, the players take turns setting scenes, and then you bid on whoever wins the bid decides how the scene ends.
Interesting. I might have to check that out.
Yeah. It is very much designed around one-shots, but they're one-shots that a lot happens in them very quickly. So I think I've plugged enough things, though. I've plugged basically everything I have done recently.
Yeah, I'll try to include as many links as I remember.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The important ones are 6 Feet Under and the Kickstarter, and that's about it.
And the link to
Costume Fairy Adventures and Final Bid also, if you want.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Yeah,
pleasure to meet you.
Thanks for coming on. Pleasure to meet you as well. If you ever have another project, feel free to hit me up and we can do another one of these.
Sounds good. I'll hit you up. I think in a year or so when I'm working on that next one.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Until
Yep.
then, have a good one, Jacob.
See you around.
See ya.